Greetings, this is Pillar next to the table, the ancient gladiator with more Pillar loves tabletop games. Bringing you MIL, MIL 1049, or if you want to be accurate to the proper Roman numerals, MXLIX, which is just kind of weird. So in this game, it is pretty much feudalism, the game. You'll have your family of knights. They'll have their lands, their soldiers, their castles. They'll have resources, gold, gold, influence, metal, fabric, and food. There will be 5 rounds of taking actions and just trying to get as much points as possible through various ways. So on your turn, what you'll do is you'll choose one of your knights and take actions with them. The first action is harvest a land. You'll flip it over. You'll get the top resources and then flip it over. If you have anything that's like gold, has the gold cube side up, by the end of this action step, you'll get the gold cube instead. So sometimes you may have to make that choice of, do I want to harvest my lands for food right now or resources, or do I want to wait and get that gold cube? But doing so will get you a time token onto your knight. Second action is to recruit. You spend 1 fabric and 1 metal, and you get a soldier added to your forces. But it also gets a time token added to that knight. If you can go without spending metal and fabric over the course of the game too much, it might be worth doing because it's one of the end game bonuses. Thirdly, there's expanding your family. You'll choose a knight, you'll roll the die. If it has multiple options, you can pick one. If it has the mill symbol, then you have a new heir. If it's somebody who doesn't already have one, then they are flipped over. If it is, and if that knight has lands or a castle, then there's a marriage auction, or marriage, which is done by auction. I'll go over the auction system here in a minute. But if they already have an heir, then what you'll do is you'll get a new knight. At which point you want to get that knight lands or a castle as soon as you can, or send them on the crusades because you don't want them unprotected. Anyway, the fourth potential action is to actually place your knight on a power sphere. If there is currently a time token there, you will have to pay 1 gold, or I think 1 privilege. The family token on your lineage space, privileges and daughters, which is possible to end up with if you roll something like that. So privileges can be used to place your knight on a time token space. Or you can place on the in general, these ones off to the right are going to be emptied first, but if you want the advantage in when those spheres are resolved, you want to be on the far left on that track. But as soon as you place even one of your knights into one of the power spheres, you can no longer harvest or recruit soldiers or expand your family. Alternatively, there's also passing, where you take take one of the time tokens and flip it over to its black side, which will also contribute to ending the round sooner. Because as soon as all the knights are placed that people have available, or all these spaces are occupied with black time tokens and knights, then that'll trigger the end of the round. So yeah, players will go around doing their actions until that round end happens. And then all these lands will flip over. If you had it with the gold side up, you'll get the gold cube. And then we go over the sphere bonus. The player with the most knights in a sphere gets the bonus. If there's a tie, it's whoever got there first. There's being able to go first on the next round and get an influence and 2 points. There's getting an influence, or not influence, a point. Points in this game are referred to as prestige. So a prestige and gold. There's a prestige and the King Soldiers, which helps out in war. And the Archbishop and 2 prestige. For each of these spheres, we go from 1 to 6 in order and do the following actions. So let me go and get this where the glare is not hitting it. Okay. So for every player can give up 2 privileges to make one of their daughters take the veil, and they're out. Having daughters at the end of the game in your lineage space is a negative against you. The player with the most is an even bigger negative, so you want to have marriages go off. You want to marry off your daughters if possible, or make them take the veil, or convert them to an abbess. Every knight here lets you do it for free, though. Here, you can... Every knight lets you take 2 influence, or attempt to make another family's knight your vassal. So, let's say if we had like another player's knight out there, I want to try to make them my vassal, at which point they'll have their family and family banner and my banner to show that they're my vassal. There's points for doing so. You really want to focus on making vassals out of people who have lands and castles, because that will get you mainly lands, because that's what gets you the big bonus. Alternatively, if you have lands that you're willing to part with, you can try to offer one of your lands as a fief. But yeah, so there's influence or vassalage. Then step 3, we have trade. Neat little trade guide on the inside of your player screen. You can trade away up to 4 of your cubes, and you cannot trade away cubes that you received this turn. So 1 food for a fabric, 2 food for a metal, a food and a fabric for 2 metal, or a food, fabric, metal, and influence for 3 gold. And then alternatively, there's building a castle. The castle is an auction. You have to... Your absolute minimum for the auction has to be a fabric, a metal, and a food. But otherwise, you can make your starting bid as high as you want it to be. The player that wins the auction gets a new castle for their knights. You have to actually have the knight to get the castle. You can't just put one out in the open without someone tending to it. So the way the auctions work is the starting player sets the bid, sets their initial bid. Any following players has to meet the initial bid and then can exceed it in terms of quantity and quality. Quality is gold is the highest. Gold is the highest, followed by influence, followed by metal, followed by fabric, followed by food. And then when it gets back to the starting player, they have one last chance to beat whatever bid was beating theirs the best. And either win or not. In auctions where people actually get stuff, like the vassalage, you can only bid influence and gold. Castles, you can bid anything except influence. Marriage, however, you can bid anything. But the recipient of the winning bid, so like if you, let's say he got a son, he's marrying someone else. Let's say it's Yellow's daughter, and Yellow provided the winning bid of like, let's say, that much. So Yellow will have married off their daughter at the cost of this much. That player, blue player receiving this only gets to keep half. So choose wisely, and the rest is discarded. And then vassalage works the same way. Unfortunately, there castle bids are the successful castle bid is just completely gone. Goes to the bank. Yeah, if you fail in bidding for your castle, you can still trade. But yeah. Then there's a war, where you can go fight for these free lands, or you can attack your opponents. So you're trying to meet or exceed the defense of the targeted area. Yeah. If you attack a player, you must discard as much influence as they have daughters. So there's some advantage in that. Let's see. Free land. Oh, it must be higher than the defense. Equal is not enough. So your attack strength is 3 for every soldier you have under that knight. And then you can spend influence and food to add +1. Having the king soldier is really helpful. It gives you a +3. When players are attacking each other, there are limits. You can't attack your vassal, and your vassal can't attack you, or that member of your family. You cannot attack someone who is protected by the archbishop. And yeah. Some of these lands add, let's see, where is it? There it is. Some of these lands provide defense bonuses, which help. But yeah, if you successfully attack a player, you'll get to take one of their lands. strength. Yeah, land is conquered. If you conquer someone's land, you could keep it for yourself, or give it to one of your vassals, or discard it, which is an evil thing to do. Yeah. Once these are depleted, they're gone. Anyway, step 5 is the Curia bid, where regardless of whether or not you have knights in there, everybody bids an amount of gold. Okay, I think I missed a point on the auctions. So this is the revised rule book that I've had to print out, and all the auctions are now effectively the same system. There's a variant in there to go back to the old the old system of marriage auction, which is a blind bid. Anyway, so there's Curia, where if you take any amount of gold and bid it, even if you don't have a knight there, each player gets 1 for every gold they bid. The most generous gets +2. The second most generous gets +1. You have to bid at least 1 gold to get anything. Now, why would you want to bid gold on the Curia? Because at the end of the game, 2 gold is only worth 1 point. Just a little end game reminder. So there's a way to get more points that way. And if we're past all the major auctions anyway, then might as well go for it. And then for every knight you actually have there, you can convert a daughter into an abbess, which is influence. Or instead of doing that, you can get a privilege. You have to convert the daughter for privilege. Yeah. No, the privilege is just something you get. Anyway, finally we get to the Crusades. Every knight there gets you an influence, and is protected against the winter check. If you have it, in general, if you have knights that don't have lands or castles, you want to send them on the Crusades to protect them. So, after doing all that, we do the winter check. We dodged the bullet this time. But if that came up, or that, then any knight without lands or castle goes away. Your first 2 knights are pretty well protected. Of course, this knight, if he lost his land in the war, then he's screwed. Oh yeah, knights dying. So knights gather up time tokens when they take their actions. At 4, if they have an heir, the heir takes over. If they don't, they're dead. You lose points, and someone else, some other distant member of your family steps up and replaces them. So you're not completely screwed as long as you have, let's see. Yeah, as long as you have lands or castles, it's fine. Now, if they have no properties, then they're screwed. If they were a vassal, then it breaks the bonds of vassalage. Normally, the bonds are unbreakable. And then we advance the round token and start the next round. So at the end, we'll do the final check for endgame bonuses. The player with the most fabric and metal combined gets 2 prestige. Most influence, 2 prestige. Most privileges, 2 prestige. Every 2 gold is worth 1, regardless. If you have any daughters remaining, each one is a -2. If you have the most, then each one is -3. And most points out of all that wins the game. Tiebreakers are, I believe, the number of vassals a player has, followed by the number of castles, and then the number of lands. And this wins. Why do I love this game? History. It's an odd little worker placement kind of thing. It's not super heavy text. That would make it hard to play with groups if I were to go to Japan and bring this game with me. Although it does feel like there's kind of a lot to the game that some things might fly over someone, fly over heads or whatever. Oh yeah, I missed one point. After doing the roll, every family with at least one soldier or castle in front of each of their knights gets a privilege. Yeah. But yeah, it's not too hard of a game once you get the systems down. It might seem tricky at first because vassalage is kind of a weird system. But then again, that's history for you. Oh yeah, there's another benefit to having vassals is every vassal you have gets you one food during the tribute phase. And yeah, it's an alright game. Like I said, I'd want to play it with people. When I don't want to deal with stuff like, okay, so I got a lot of games that have cards that have printed text that are in English, and I keep wanting to look at games that are low on the text requirement scale so that I can play them with more people regardless of the ability to read that, which is part of why I hold on to Endeavor. Yeah, it's feudalism the game. Good luck finding a copy. I was very lucky to get this from a fellow gamer. It's definitely one. Yeah, I'd be willing to play it. Yeah, I'm just rambling at this point. So I'm out of here. Thank you for watching. See you next time.